Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Dark Powerrr, where we cover everything that happens on AEW Dark, Dark Elevation, and NWA Powerrr. This is the first week after Mania, so we are officially taking MLW Fusion and transferring it over to Review of Honor, where, with my co-host, the three-time baby-making champ Ness, we will fuse together and form Fusion of Honor. But that leaves a lot of time to cover everything that happened on Dark Elevation, and Powerrr. So let's get started actually with Powerrr. Powerrr was kind of interesting this week. It wasn't heavy on action. It was more about character work, which was kind of interesting. I like that about it. It was, in a sense, kind of a recap show and kind of a going forward of what's going to be happening going forward. Only one match. Mims takes on Plunkett. Mims gets the win, a solid match. But this is more about what we were talking about last week and what we saw last week with Aldis's information or revelation that everybody's job in Strictly Business is up for grabs. And I think I spoke about it last week. You know, Latimer and Camille are together. So how does that whole thing work? And how does everybody's spot in Strictly Business really be up for grabs when you're not giving Chris Adonis a spot and he won a championship and Latimer didn't? But these are all things that we get addressed this week, so it's really cool to see not a payoff, but an explanation happening so soon so that we're able to understand where NWA is going with this storyline. So the gist of it is, and they have Camille on commentary making some of these points, and then later Aldis having a promo of his own, is that Camille is saying, you know, she and Latimer are world-class athletes, and they are not going anywhere. They have no plans on leaving Strictly Business, and they are going to continue to do an incredible job as far as she is concerned. And she says that she kind of understands where Aldis's head is at, you know, like in the sense that they're a good team, but he wants them to be better, and he wants everything in Strictly Business to work. So she kind of understands that he's doing what's best for Strictly Business. We do have that Mims versus Plunkett match, and then we kind of have a promo with, we get information that Saul Renaro is being granted a non-title tag match against our tag champions. He needs to find a partner, and I'm assuming if they should win, we will get some kind of title match down the road. So now let's turn towards that Aldis promo. So the Aldis promo is kind of interesting. The Aldis promo is basically saying Adonis is not a member because he needs to see consistency. And that's something that I brought up when I was saying, well, Adonis won a title, Latimer didn't, so why is Adonis not a member of Strictly Business? And it makes sense because Aldis has been a level of greatness, a level of consistency for hundreds of days. So it's not enough to just win one championship. It's not enough to be good one night out of the year. You have to be good every night out of the year, just like Nick Aldis. So I can understand where he's coming from and what his thought process is. And the other thing that he's saying is that he knows that Camille and Latimer are world-class athletes, that they are elite-level athletes, and as long as they remain so, they will be part of Strictly Business. So I wonder if we will see some issues with Latimer, because Latimer seems to be the weak link out of the trio. Aldis we know is going to be at the level that Aldis is at, and we know that they're behind Camille, but it doesn't seem as though they're as behind Latimer. He lost that title match to Pope at the Back for the Attack pay-per-view. So I wonder if there's going to be some kind of tension there where maybe Latimer can't hold up his end of the bargain, and Aldis has issues with Latimer, and because of their connection, he indirectly then has issues with Camille, even though he doesn't actually have issues with Camille. And Camille has to decide what exactly she's going to do, which side she's going to take. That'll be an interesting storyline, and it's not something that we've really seen that much on Powerrr. We haven't seen a level of complexity in the storylines that we are now potentially getting. I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I really enjoyed how Nick signed off for the end of his promo, considering it was also the end of the show, where he was saying, you know, all the fans who are glad to see NWA Powerrr back, you're welcome. And that's just a great little tidbit from the heel. But that means we are turning towards Dark Elevation. Dark Elevation, there were a bunch of things that stood out to me from this episode. The first and foremost is that parts of the show, I don't know if it was the whole show, because it seemed as though the time of day changed, and that might have just been the sun setting. But for the most part, this show was filmed in front of an actual audience. Not just wrestlers portraying crowd members right around the ring, but people who were in the stands. I'm assuming they did it maybe before Dynamite, or they had maybe before that house show. That would have been an interesting thing to do as well. Maybe before that, the House Always Wins house show that they did. That will be kind of an interesting thing to see how exactly they're going to try to incorporate more of the audience into the crowds. And that's incredibly important. That's part of the history of Dark, what Dark was and what Dark Elevation is supposed to be. And that's why you can get that feeling throughout the course of this episode. I mean, we're starting off with 10 taking somebody to a referee's decision. After this, we have Miro in action. Then we have Hikaru Shida and Tai Conti winning a tag team match. Then Hybrid 2 taking on... Like, we're starting to see a little bit more of the bigger names on Dark Elevation. We've seen Adam Page last week. We've seen Jon Moxley the week before. But now they're starting to sprinkle more and more of these AEW stars in there, and we're seeing some larger names from across the pond, from around the world. We've seen Konosuke Takeshita, who I've heard some pretty good things about. I don't know that much about him, but I know that he's from DDT. I know he has that history with Omega, with Ibushi, and he puts on a really good match here with Danny Limelight. That's one of the matches to check out for this week from Dark Elevation. I like the athleticism that's in that match. It's just really, really good, and the amount of reversals and counters. Danny Limelight is somebody who always punches up to the level of talent that he's in the ring with. So if he's on par with somebody lower than him, or if he's in the ring with somebody lower than him, then he elevates that person. If he's on par, it's a good match. If it's somebody above him, he finds a way to go above what you would expect from Danny Limelight to say, no, I can hang with that person. And that's something that's really important. He's done some great work when we were doing the UWN days, and I'm interested to see whether or not they are keeping him with AEW. I know that he does stuff with New Japan Strong, I believe. So he's somebody that I think we may one day get Danny Limelight is, hashtag All Elite down the road. But we have some interesting crossover appeal, I suppose, is the way to look at it. And it's something that Tony Khan was talking about when it came to how Dark Elevation was going to be. He said we were going to see storylines that play out across all three properties, across Dark Elevation, and Dynamite. And the first way that we're seeing that happen is with Britt Baker. Britt Baker said that she is going to appear on every single show and keep winning until she's able to get a match against Shida. And she's starting that off with a win over Sky Blue here on Dark Elevation. Quick match, good match, but it's designed to keep that momentum going. And we've seen that before on Dark. We've seen that before on Dark Elevation, but this is now going to be one of the first times where we're seeing storylines play out throughout all courses of the three shows. Further, one of the things that's interesting is that we are seeing different things play out across different elements. If you remember, we saw the factory storyline start when QT turns on Cody, but really that storyline started on Dark and Dark Elevation. And we're seeing continuations of that when we see the factory with Camarado and QT Marshall taking on Andrew Palace and Cole Carter. And we're continuing to see different elements of things play out. Because we have, when I saw the thumbnail for the video, for the YouTube video, I said, what is a quadruple main event? And then I'm going through it, and I'm seeing the matches. And yeah, all four of these matches could have been the main event of Dark Elevation. Now, maybe that says something about Dark Elevation, but it says to me, it tells me that we are getting better and better quality matches, especially when you consider that almost everybody involved in these final four matches are AEW contracted talents. So first we have Pentagon defeating Brandon Cutler, a good win here. Cutler's bleeding by the end of it. I think that I hope that we are not seeing a return to the losing ways of Brandon Cutler. He has been on a bit of a slump recently. I'm hoping he's able to turn that around. Next, we see Thunder Rosa defeating Diamante. Earlier in the night, she had cut a really strong promo, and this match was good. I mean, if we're going to talk about Diamante and Thunder Rosa, I guess we do have to talk about what happened with Ivelisse. Ivelisse recently, I think it was as of yesterday or day before, was released from AEW. Now, I gotta say, it is possible that... So Ivelisse was released, and she claims it's because there was mistreatment going on. She spoke up to management. She was the one sidelined because of it. Thunder Rosa was bad-mouthing her, and then she was released. Now, there's a very good chance she's telling the truth. Well, we got to start with that. We got to treat each situation as though it's a different situation. But why am I saying each situation? Because Ivelisse has had similar complaints and similar releases from multiple companies. And it kind of seems weird that the common denominator is Ivelisse. So why is that? Well, maybe it's more her than it is those companies. Maybe it's the fact that you should not go into a shoot fight against your opponent in the form of Thunder Rosa. Well, I don't know. Maybe Thunder Rosa would be bad-mouthing you behind the scenes if you start sandbagging her and actually hitting her with shots during a match. Like, don't turn this into a shoot fight. I mean, Rosa's beating you, you know? But it just doesn't seem a smart decision. We'll go with that. But either way, I guess we wish Ivelisse the best. I hope that she is able to land on her feet. I hope that she's able to learn from some of her mistakes. Because again, even if you believe that you are right, even if she believes that she was mistreated, that others were being mistreated, etc., you need to understand that there are things that you can control. You can't control other people, but you can always control your behavior and how you react to things. So maybe she needed to learn how better to speak to people. Maybe that's something that she needs to learn. And hopefully she's able to do that during this time away from being with a particular company. We'll see what happens. Next, we have Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky taking on Joey Janela, Sonny Kiss. A nice tag match here. Again, it feels a little weird. It feels as though Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky are just listless. I mean, everybody can't be having something at the same time. I understand that. But it just feels weird, and I think I said this last week, about them being thrown into a tag team after they've both come out of tag teams, and it seems as though they wanted to be singles wrestlers. So hopefully there's somewhere to go with this. I know that they have issues with Darby, but that's one person. Darby is one man, and there's two of them. So how do they figure out who's going to be the one to try to take the TNT title from him? We'll see what happens there. And finally, in our main event, Best Friends taking on Cesar Bononi and Ryan Nemeth. Those are the only two that I don't know whether or not they are actually signed to AEW. But good match there. Solid main event for the Best Friends. Nothing too crazy. We know that they're continuing to push Best Friends and get that momentum behind them. And it's good to see them now being reunited with Orange and Chris Statlander. And speaking of everybody involved in this match, we are seeing this storyline kind of play out. This idea of what Ryan Nemeth is trying to do. They're like low-key building a undercard or lower mid-card faction behind Ryan Nemeth. And it's kind of interesting to see. So that's why we are going to turn to AEW Dark and figure out what exactly happened on Dark this week that we need to talk about. Well, Dark, if Dark Elevation feels what AEW Dark was, then it kind of, I'm not going to lie, it puts Dark, the current incarnation of Dark, into a very bad light. We are seeing some just... This match, this show could have been cut down considerably, and it would have been fine. It seems as though Dark is just a way to just build momentum now and keep it going, but Sometimes it's just for the next night's Dynamite. And I don't know if that's necessarily needed. Or if it is needed, I think we can cut down on the number of matches. And trust me, I get it. I appreciate the fact that Tony is trying to help different independent wrestlers out and make sure that people are getting paid. Pandemic is still raging on. We are still working on getting everybody vaccinated. I am going for my second shot at the end of the month, but it's starting to be a little wearing, starting to be a little bearing, a little weary, and I hope that something about Dark itself can pick up. We saw on Dark Elevation an incredible showcase of Shawn Dean. It was a really nice vignette. I'm a big Shawn Dean fan. I'm a veteran as well, and I currently live in Chicago, so I see a lot of I see a lot of Shawn Dean, and I like a lot that I see about Shawn Dean. I don't know if we need to bring back the Britt Baker's talk show. I don't know what exactly is needed, but there's got to be some kind of spark behind Dark. Oh, that was a nice little run. But you can't give me matches like SCU having a tag match on Dark. I know they're not going to lose. And it's at least I'm happy, one, now that the match is only 3.5 minutes long, and two, that it's opening the show. But still, it's almost as though put them on Dynamite. Just let me have that little bit of sense that this could be the night, as opposed to a Tuesday. Like, they're not going to have SCU break up on a Tuesday night episode of Dark just to combat NXT. It just doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem as though that's the smart play whatsoever. But anyway, throughout the course of the night, one thing that stood out to me was Big Swole and Red Velvet getting the win over Amber Nova, Queen Aminata in a tag match. We're just keeping Red Velvet strong for the match against Jade Cargill the next night. I did like the Aaron Solo Fuego del Sol match, not necessarily for the match itself, but what the match represents, and that's Fuego del Sol's long storyline against QT Marshall, and Aaron Solo now being part of Marshall's factory faction. That is something that I like to see them continuing to do. That Fuego del Sol, they're building it. He finally did hit the Tornado DDT on QT Marshall a couple weeks ago, but he wasn't able to get the pin. They're slowly building something behind Fuego. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what the end result will be, but I'm here for it. It's at least something. That's what I'm talking about with a spark. It's at least something to keep interest in some of the matches that are happening on Dark. But speaking of that, Kylan King defeating Maddie Rankowski. This is a match between two up-and-comers in AEW. Kylan King gets the win, but Maddie Rankowski, you can tell that she is somebody that they want to be behind, that they want to be pushing for the future. Britt Baker defeats Shauna Reed. Again, we're now seeing Britt Monday, Tuesday. I'm sure we'll see her do something on Wednesday to have that momentum continue behind her as she gears up for that showdown with Hikaru Shida. That'll be interesting if that's the Double or Nothing match, because Double or Nothing last year is where Shida won the title. So it'll be roughly a year, and that might be the time to pull that trigger on Britt Baker becoming our new AEW Women's Champion. But waiting in the wings is somebody like Nyla Rose, who has a match here, a squash match, but does pretty damn well with it. And I think that Nyla is somebody who continues to make people look good. And I'm wondering when, not that Nyla needs to return to the promised land of being champion, but I'm wondering how exactly they're going to juggle her versus somebody like Shida if Britt is the person who takes the title from her. I mean, it's possible that Britt takes the title from Shida and then Nyla is the bounce back feud for Shida, but that feels a little unfortunate for Nyla Rose. Our second to last match is Lance Archer defeating Cole Carter. This was a good match. I like Lance's hilarity in the ring. The idea of keeping a guy in the corner, looking at him and saying, "I'll be right back," running to the other side of the ring and running back for like a clothesline into the or back elbow into the corner of the ring. Good stuff. Jake Roberts on commentary, also very good. And incredible that Jake is finding a good way to put over Lance's opponent, despite the fact that Lance is dismembering this person in under 4 minutes. And finally, in our main event, we had some promos for this throughout the night. Alex Reynolds taking on Ryan Nemeth. I like one thing that AEW does do well is they keep, if a person in a tag team is injured, they keep the team and the other person, the uninjured party, they keep them going through singles matches. We saw that with Max Caster having matches when Anthony Bowens was out, and we now see that with Alex Reynolds having matches with John Silver being out. And Reynolds picks up a win here over Ryan Nemeth, a good little kind of self-contained storyline within this episode of Dark. That's also something that sparks the dark. That's a nice little catchphrase. But good showing from Reynolds, and I'm looking forward to seeing when John Silver gets back. I think that they are going to be, I think maybe end of the year, top of next, they're going to pull the trigger on Reynolds and Silver being tag champions, because they are building behind those Beaver Boys, those guys from the Dark Order. But until then, guys, I will be with you every single step of the way as we continue to cover AEW Dark Powerrr. I keep saying Dark Powerrr, Dark Elevation, and NWA Powerrr. I'm looking forward to seeing what the NWA Powerrr episode is for next week. They have intrigued me with the storyline and the kind of issues going on within Strictly Business, because it's not somebody who is challenging all this. It seems as though we're going to have that conflict from within, and I do like inner conflict storylines with factions. So until next time, guys, you can catch me on the new and forthcoming Fusion of Honor, and you can catch me in our Facebook groups having fun conversations with you guys. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and thank you once again for watching.